This video was made possible thanks to my amazing patrons at patreon.com/magicalhacker. If you're not a patron and you would like me to make a video for you each month using your decks, become a patron today. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of GAVONY Township, the show where it's not about me and my decks, it is about you and your decks, whether you're a content creator that I'm collaborating with, whether you're one of my supporters over at patreon.com/magicalhacker, or whether you're someone that wins one of my Twitter or Facebook giveaways. For today's episode, we've got a patron of mine by the name of Ehren Wessel who has submitted a Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow as their deck for this month. And I'm excited to do a quick deck doctor on this, so let's just go ahead and jump into this. So Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow, 3 mana for a legendary 1/3 human ninja with Commander Ninjutsu. So this ability, you can pay 2 mana, return an unblocked attacker you control to your hand, and put this card onto the battlefield from your hand or the command zone, tapped and attacking. So the idea is, we get in with a creature, maybe we cast it on turn 1, turn 2 we start to attack with it, we can then pay the 2 mana, move Yuriko from our command zone onto the battlefield, we just have to return that creature to our hand, and Yuriko enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. It's also got this ability here, it says whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So with Yuriko the Tiger Shadow, there's a lot of things you can do with this commander. In fact, there's a reason that this is the most popular commander with 2 or fewer colors in the total color identity. So Yuriko, very, very well known. It's a lot of fun, I think, because it hits on multiple kind of combinations of strategies. On one hand, you could try to go for a really combo-centric build where you're using Yuriko, you're using a lot of things that have a really big CMC, but that you can kind of cheat out for free or you can cheat out for a lot less. Yuriko really likes those types of cards. Or you can go, on a totally different axis. Another popular idea, which is going to be Ninja Tribal. Any type of tribal deck, I think people are always really interested in those kinds of decks, and Yuriko here is no exception. So Yuriko, you can do Ninja Tribal, you can do more of a combo-based build where you're trying to make everybody lose a lot of life just out of nowhere. Either way, you're going to be doing a lot of attacking, hopefully doing a lot of connecting to your opponents, and that's what we've got here. So let's go ahead and jump into this deck, talking about what we've got here, what we're doing, what we're not doing, and then that will help me do a really good deck doctor for this deck, talking about what can be improved and what might just be better, staying in the deck. So let's go and take a look first off at the lands. I like the number of lands here. We've got 35 of them. There isn't a Soul Ring, which I could just go ahead and say, add in the Soul Ring. It's going to make the deck a lot better. But Ehren, if you've, obviously heard of Soul Ring, everybody's heard of Soul Ring if you're playing Commander. There's a reason you're not playing in the deck, so I'm not even going to suggest it. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that most people would want to play it. I can definitely see why. Yuriko is not going to be that great to actually have, a Soul Ring here, but maybe it's something that you would want to do. Maybe you just kind of overlooked it. If that's the case, then go ahead and add a Soul Ring, but I don't think that's the case. I think you're choosing not to play it. I think it makes sense here for Yuriko. You're not going to be, using that ninjutsu with any generic mana anyways, so it's not going to be as useful for the commander. It might not be as useful for the entire deck. Maybe, maybe not, but if that's the decision you made, I'm going to go ahead and stick with that one. So we've got 35 lands here. I would like to have at least one more, but we've got things in here that make me feel a little bit better, like the Wayfarer's Bauble. I think that's going to be fine. It's going to count as that last land. We've also got the Explorer's Scope. That could also count. So I'm going to say that the mana base is perfect, just the way that it is. I like to play 36, but 35, close enough. Besides, you've got the Wayfarer's Bauble. I think that's going to count as another card as part of the mana base here. So that's pretty simple. All right, let's go ahead and move all these cards into one big category. That way we can start looking at all the non-lands and start talking about what we can drop, what we can keep in the deck, and what we need to change out. So we're going to go ahead and move these over there as well. So yeah, I like to do it this way where we just start off with the deck. We look at those cards individually and say, okay, this is going to be good for this category, this is good for that category, and that can kind of help us get into a place where we're really happy with where the deck's at. So we're going to start off here with Ornithopter. It's a great card for a deck like this. Normally doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but a 0-drop flyer, that's going to be really great to get Yuriko out there on turn 1, maybe even sometime, on turn 2, sometimes maybe even on turn 1. I don't think there's any of those 0-drop artifacts that allow you to get it out on turn 1, but that's something you can maybe do at a future time. Actually, no, now that I think about it, Ornithopter is never going to allow you to get Yuriko out on turn 1 because it does not have haste. So it's just good as another copy of a thing that can attack on turn 2 and allow you to get Yuriko out there. It's also nice just as a 0-drop, so that after you get Yuriko out there, you can then play it again for free on turn 2, and that way turn 3 you can start doing more ninjutsu stuff. So maybe one of the best cards for a deck like this. We've got here Temporal Trespass. An extra turn is always good in a deck that wants to attack a lot. So we might find this being, you know, a card that's going to be counted as a way for us to deal more damage. But I think what's more likely is that it's going to have that delve cost, being able to cast it for as little as 3 mana, whereas when it gets revealed, that's going to make everybody else lose 11 life. And I believe you gain life equal to that. Nope, just each opponent loses life equal to the card's converted mana cost. Yep, so that's all we're going to happen, is just going to be making 33 life points go away when we get it revealed from Yuriko. Next up, we've got the Curse of the Cabal. Kind of the same idea here. We can suspend it on turn 4, but when we reveal it off the top of our deck, that's going to be a 10 mana card. So always going to be good there. Same thing with a Dig Through Time. This one's going to be only 8, but also has Delve, so it kind of works in the same category as Temporal Trespass. So here are our really expensive CMC cards that are really not that expensive when we actually go to cast them. So I don't know what we would name as that category, but maybe sneakily expensive or sneakily cheap. So one of those ones. It's like tricking you into thinking that it's a big card, but it's not really. It's like something you can cast for pretty little. So we're going to go ahead and move that there. Wayfarer's Bauble, that's going to count as ramp. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of things that only ramp by 1, but you know what? This is going to be good enough for this deck, I think. So we're going to go ahead and make that into one category. We've got Sensei's Divining Top. I think that's going to be a huge part of what's going to make this deck work really well. And that is going to be library manipulation. You want to make sure that you can kind of manipulate the top cards of your library. The last thing you'd want to do is reveal a land off of Yuriko the Tiger Shadow ability. So you're revealing a land, you're just going to make everybody lose 0. So it's not going to be as helpful. Being able to make sure that you're revealing those big cards using a card like Sensei's Divining Top, that's going to be really important for a deck like this. We've got Explorer's Scope. This one, in combination with that library manipulation, will allow us to ramp out some more. Loving the deck so far. Everything looks really good here. Tormented Soul, going to be another cheap, unblockable creature, or difficult to block creature. We've got here Scheming Symmetry. That's going to be a tutor, so we'll go ahead and put that into a tutor. I like the fact that this is a sorcery speed card. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of sorcery speed tutors that put things to the top, but when you're playing Yuriko, that's going to make a lot of sense with a deck like this. Putting something expensive on the top can really allow you to do a lot of really cool stuff. It is interesting that you make somebody else search their library as well. So I don't know if that downside is going to be a big problem, but I think this is a good deck to test it out and see if it's actually worth including. We got another cheap unblockable creature, another tutor. We've got Gudul Lurker. That's going to be another cheap unblockable creature. Brainstorm is going to be a cantrip, so that's going to kind of count as the library manipulation category, because we can put whatever card we want in that same way. Limdul's Vault, the one card, or one of the 2 cards that Magic Online has a really hard time with, because that name is, that little U symbol, yeah, Magic Online does not like that when it's in a list, so I had to add it in manually. But it's still here. We got it in the deck, don't worry about that. But yeah, Limdul's Vault is going to be another tutor-like effect. They also get to put stuff on top of our deck, so I definitely like that one here. Thought Vessel going to be counting as some more ramp. We've got the Talisman of Dominance, the Sword of the Animist. Strionic Resonator is a pretty interesting one. This is going to go into a general synergy category just because Yuriko would love to have another ability off of the Strionic Resonator. It makes me think that what's going to be really good later on, and we might find that in the deck, is going to be playing things that can make copies of Yuriko. So Sakashimas, there's 2 of those. We've also got the Spark Double. Those might be really good in a deck like this because then we can copy Yuriko. Let's say we've got 2 of those on the battlefield. We attack with both. Then with both of those being, dealing damage to our opponents, we get 4 triggers off of the Yurikos. That's pretty amazing to be able to add 3 additional triggers just from 1 card. I think that's fantastic. Strionic Resonator, really great card. The first time you activate it, that's going to be using up a total of 4 mana. But compared to Spark Double, both of the Sakashimas, I mean, that's just going to be ridiculous. It's going to be really crazy. Lightning Greaves is going to give haste, so we'll definitely have a category here for haste enablers. That might be the important part. It might also be the Shroud, so I'll kind of keep that in the back of my mind. It might actually be the Shroud that's more important here. Key to the City, this is going to allow us to make things unblockable. It also allows us to draw cards, so we just might keep that into like a mixture category for right now. Next up, we've got the Imperial Plate. This one gives a pretty big buff to creatures, depending on how many cards we have in hand. That's definitely going to be a card that's going to take advantage of the fact that we've got a lot of cards being drawn here. So I'm going to make another category here just for things that care about having lots of cards in the hand. So we'll put that there. Demir Signet, that's going to be another type of ramp. Same thing with the Arcane Signet. We've got here Baleful Strix. Now this is a 2-drop, but it has a little bit of versatility. Yes, it can be an unblockable creature. That's always great. It's got that flying, but it also allows us to draw a card and be a Death Touch blocker. So if we can just get it down there and then just block a big thing that's attacking us, that's going to be a 2-for-1. So that's a pretty simple way to use Baleful Strix. The fact that it's an artifact and a creature kind of opens you up to a lot more recursion. You can return it as an artifact, you can return it as a creature. But for right now, we're going to put it into the category of hard to block creatures. I think that's going to be the best place to be. Next up, we've got Nether Trader. Now, this is going to have Shadow. Going to be another great way to just get this out there and start attacking very, very easily. I do like a couple of these 2-drop creatures. However, I have to admit, I think it might just be better to drop them for some more 1-drop creatures. Being able to go for a turn 2 Yuriko might actually be important enough that that's what we want to do in almost every single game. So I'm going to kind of take a look to see if that's what we actually want to do. But for right now, I think that's something I'm going to keep in the back of my mind. Next up, we've got the Skull Snatcher. This is going to be a ninjutsu card. This allows us to exile cards from a player's graveyard. I think this is good just because it's a ninja. So let's put another category just for ninjas. And it is kind of cool that we have here the Changeling Outcast, also going to count as a ninja. But yeah, I think that's going to be pretty important. Let's just put another category here for ninjas because that's going to be, I think, part of our strategy as well. We can get down another ninja. Yuriko is going to trigger another time from those ninjas dealing damage. So I think that's going to be important as well. Next up here, we've got Silumgar Assassin. This is going to be a hard-to-block creature. It also allows us to destroy something if we decide to go for the Megamorph route with this creature, so that's kind of a little bit of extra versatility. Bitter Blossom, that's going to be some more cheap creatures that we can get out there. And the nice thing is, we can actually use this to get multiple creatures out there, so that's always a benefit here. Now, next up, we've got Tetsuku. This is going to be an unblockable creature, but I think what's more important, and it's going to be part of why I'm going to put this into a different category, is that I can actually make our other creatures unblockable. So Yuriko, she would love to have that unblockability. Thankfully, Tetsuku Umezawa definitely gives that to Yuriko. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this into a new category here of things that generate unblockability, because I think that's going to be an important part of this deck. The more I think about it, the more I think like that's going to be one of the best types of effects to have in a deck like this. Next up, we've got the Smoke Shroud. This is going to go ahead and give things flying. It does trigger when ninjas enter, so in a lot of ways it's going to be kind of the same category. It's going to be giving our ninjas unblockability, and that's really what we're wanting, to get those unblockability to our ninjas. So yeah, I think that Smoke Shroud is going to be perfect here. Next up, we've got Cyclonic Rift. That's going to be a board wipe. We haven't seen any board wipes up to this point, but Cyclonic Rift is a pretty famous one, so we'll definitely add that one into the deck as well. Next up, we've got the Whisper Silk Cloak. This gives unblockability. It also gives the Shroud, but I think the unblockability here is the more important part. So let's just put that into that category as well here. Next up, we've got the Unstable Obelisk. This is going to be ramp that we can also use as spot removal if we need to, so I'm going to move that there. Manifesting cards from our hand is kind of an interesting choice here because we're not playing a lot of... I mean, we're playing some cheap creatures. I guess what we can do is we can use our creatures, manifest them down. This is a tough one because we're not... I mean, if we're playing a blink deck, then that's going to be a way that we can kind of cheat out our creatures. If we can blink them, that's going to be the same as casting it for the first time, and that could potentially be a lot cheaper. But with this deck, it doesn't seem like we're playing a lot of really expensive stuff. At least not that it looks like. So, do we actually want to use the Scroll of Fate here? An interesting card here. I'm not sure where to put it, to be honest. But you know what? Let's do this. Let's move this into the category of cards that care about us having a lot of cards in hand. Because at least this turns into a bunch of tokens every turn. Now, they're not going to be unblockable or anything like that, but we got to put them out there and maybe flip them later on to be able to attack with something that's unblockable if we decide to go for one of our cheap creatures. But even then, why would we do that instead of just paying the 1 mana right away? Either way, if somebody wants to get rid of it, they're going to get rid of it. So, I don't know. It doesn't really seem like it does a whole lot here unless I'm missing something. Manifest a card from your hand, right? It's from your hand. Yeah, it's from the hand. So we're putting out a 2/2 creature, turn it up facing, I don't really know. I think that's a little bit strange here. Yeah, I might be missing the point behind that card, but that might be one of the first cards that I'm looking to drop so far. And I just realized I have the Key to the City by itself in the category of things that can give unblockability. We're going to go and move it back to where it belongs. Next up here, we've got the Quietest Spike. Now, this is going to be a card that's going to care about us actually dealing combat damage. There might be a couple of other cards like that in this deck, but for right now, I'm going to go ahead and move this into its own category. Thankfully, we just have a spot open up, so we'll put the Quietest Spike in there. So yeah, being able to attack our opponents, hit them, and then make them lose half their life total, that's going to be amazing. So I like that one a lot here. Next up, we've got the Mistvein Border Post. In a lot of ways, this is going to count as a land, but the benefit here is we can also use it as a mana lift. So just 3 mana, add some mana, Add 1 mana from this one. Not bad for a ramp, not bad for a land. Even better, I think, than the Wayfarer's Bauble, which I also said was, as good as a land here. But yeah, let's go and put that into that category and move on to the next one. We've got Throatseeker. This is a ninja for 3 mana. It also says that our unblocked attacking ninjas have lifelink. So we can actually give lifelink to our creatures. Kind of cool. Let's go ahead and move that over to the... this is a ninja, but it does not have a ninjutsu ability. It does have an ability kind of like Quiet Spike, where we're trying to deal that damage so we can get some additional benefit. But I am going to put this here with the ninjas. Let's just put that there. I think that's probably the best place to put it, because we can put that with our ninjas, and then, if we keep dealing damage with our ninjas, Yuriko is going to keep triggering over and over. All right, next up here we've got Read the Bones. That's going to count as card draw. Kind of going back to that same category, or that same discussion I was having with Ramp. I tend to like Ramp that's a little bit beefier, a little bit chunkier for the Commander format. The same thing applies to card draw. I tend to like things that are a little bit more, I don't know if I want to say heavy, but I want something a little bit more substantial than effects that we see on Read the Bones. So if this were my deck, I would be building it without it, but you know what? This is going to be good enough for Ramp, in my opinion. So Ehren, I'm not even going to say to take this one out. I'm going to say, if this is the card draw that you like, keep it in there, my friend. That's what I think we're going to go with. Next up here, we've got the Phantom Ninja. That's going to be another ninja for us to add into the ninja category. We've got Admiral's Order. That's going to be a counter spell. We actually haven't added that category in just yet. So let's go ahead and make a category for spot removal and counter spells. We've got another ninja here with the Walker of Secret Ways. Propaganda is going to be a Pillow Fort effect, which we haven't seen here either. So let's go ahead and make a new category for Pillow Fort, because, like I mentioned earlier at the very beginning of this video, Yuriko is a pretty popular commander. So if we see that our opponents are looking at Yuriko, getting pretty afraid of what she can do, and so they're starting to attack us a lot, Pillow Fort might be really important for a deck like this to just be as successful as we really want it to be. So Pillow Fort with Propaganda going to its own category. Next up, we've got another ninja here with the Mist Syndicate Naga. After that, we've got the Mistblade Shinobi as another ninja. We've got the Fierce Guardianship as another counter spell, so we'll put that into a counter spell section here. I know you can't see it. I'm putting it here actually behind the area that has the preview, but I'm putting that over here so I don't have to keep going back and forth to our categories. We can kind of just put that all there, and then come and actually when we go to the end and do that, once I find that I've got enough things here like ninjas that I can go ahead and do it all in one shot. Next up, we've got here the Ancient Excavation. So we draw cards equal to the number of cards in our hand, then discard a card for each card drawn this way. It's also got basic land cycling. This is a pretty interesting one. Is this entirely important? I don't know, because let's say we've got 5 cards in hand, including this one. We cast this card, we go down to 4 cards, where they're going to draw 4 cards and then discard 4 cards. So we might end up, discarding some of the cards we drew, some of the cards we had before, but ultimately it's going to be using up 1 card from the hand, and then we'll not really be getting that card back. So it's going to help us find better cards for our hand, but I don't know if that's super important here. Even if we've got 7 cards in the hand, we draw 7, discard 7, ultimately, I guess if we're having... Well, no, we could have 8 cards in the hand. We draw a card for our turn and play Ancient Excavation right off the bat. I guess that's not too bad. But yeah, ultimately, we're just going to be drawing 7, discarding 7. It might not actually help us all that much, especially for 4 mana. The nice thing here, though, it is instant speed. So if we've got a lot of responses, a lot of things we want to do, we don't have a lot of cards in hand, but then that's kind of the opposite, right? Yeah, Ancient Excavation, I know would kind of be counted as card draw here, but I don't think that's enough. I think that's kind of a little bit hard to understand what the point behind it is. So that might be another card I'm going to be suggesting us drop here. It is nice because it has basic land cycling too, so we can discard it rather than use the ability here. But even then, I don't think that's super important. I think there are going to be a lot more cards that we can actually cast for a much better cost that we would love to reveal with our commander. So that might be, that might be dropped for one of those types of cards. Next up here, we've got the Azra Smoke Shaper. That's another ninja for us to add to the ninja category. Whirler Rogue, this is not a ninja, but it does give us cheap creatures that can attack, or we can then use them to give something unblockability. So I like that for the unblockable category. Let's go and move over to the end here and start adding things to some of these categories that we've talked about. So we've got a bunch of ninjas. Let's go ahead and add all those ninjas to the ninja category. We've got a couple of counter spells for a new category. We've also got the Propaganda for a new category. And I'm going to leave the Ancient Excavation here. I'm going to move the Scroll of Fate here as well as just cards that we talked about maybe not really wanting in this deck. So yeah, currently Ancient Excavation, Scroll of Fate, those are 2 cards that I'm looking at and saying, yeah, maybe we can drop those for something a little bit better. maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that I'm about to get into the card that's going to give me the idea, like, oh, now I understand why we're playing Ancient Excavation or Scroll of Fate. Like, now I see it. But for right now, we're just going to keep waiting. Next up, we've got Sakashima's Student. This one's kind of cool. It is obviously going to be somewhat similar to the Sakashima that we've got here. But the difference is that Sakashima's Student can't copy our commander and still survive. So it's not going to get around the legend rule in any way, unlike the two Sakashimas. So we're going to move this into the ninja category, obviously. And then Sakashima, the Imposter. I'm actually going to move this with the Shronic Resonator. I think this is going to be an important part of this deck. Being able to copy up those abilities from Yuriko is going to be huge for a deck like this. Next up here, we've got Reconnaissance Mission. This is going to do two things for us. It's going to care about us dealing combat damage with our creatures, but on top of that, it's also going to give us card draw. Our commander gives us card draw, so I'm just going to move that into the category of things that care about combat damage. Next up here, we've got the Frozen Ether. This allows us to prevent our creatures from having blockers entering the battlefield. But most of our creatures are going to be mostly unblockable anyway, so I don't know how important Frozen Ether is going to be in this deck. That might be another card I'm going to be suggesting us drop here. Now, I haven't really played with these types of effects too much. I know that they're very good against haste, so Ehren, if you've got a lot of haste creatures in your meta, then Frozen Ether is going to be fantastic for a deck like this. Otherwise, though, I don't know how important it's going to be. I'd rather have, instead of the Frozen Ether, another thing that gives us, for example, all your creatures gain flying. I'd love to see an effect like that. That's also going to be 4 mana. So I'd probably like that over the Frozen Ether, personally. Next up here, we've got the Okiba Gang Shinobi. That's going to be another ninja, so let's put that with the ninjas here. We've got the Throat Slitter, another ninja. We've got the Vesuvian Shapeshifter. This is going to copy creatures that we have on the battlefield. Let me see here. Or turn face up. We can choose another creature on the battlefield if we do until it's turned face down. Because a copy of that creature, except it has at the beginning of your upkeep, you may turn this creature face down. So this is kind of cool. We can hold up the 2 mana so that if our commander would die, or somebody would gain control of it, or somebody would target it with like an Imprison in the Moon effect or something along those lines, we can actually unmorph our Vesuvian Shapeshifter, make a copy of it. Command rule will make us choose which one to put in the command zone. We can choose the original commander, which is being targeted by something or something's happening to it. We can put that into the command zone, keep the Vesuvian Shapeshifter, especially if we're in the middle of combat. This allows us to continue to get those Yuriko triggers. So I do like this one. I would put this into the protection category. We don't have a category for that just yet, but we'll find one. Misdirection kind of does the same thing. It also counts as something that's pretty expensive, can be cast for a lot less. But I like the protection aspect more so here. Next up, we've got the Higuri, the Sylvan. That's going to be another ninja. Although I will admit, it does have a pretty cool combat damage ability. It allows us to tutor for more ninjas. You can't go wrong with that, in my opinion. Next up here, we've got the Ether Gale. This is going to be another type of board wipe. It's not going to be entirely a board wipe style effect, but being able to do like a one-sided return most of the scary permanents, at least 6 of them. I like the Ether Gale for that, so I'm going to put that with the board wipe category. I'm not a huge fan of it, I'll be honest. I'm not a huge fan of it as a board wipe for my decks, but in a deck like this, it actually could be pretty good. So I'm going to put that into the board wipe category for this deck. Next up here, we've got the Ink Eyes Servant of Oni. I like this one as another ninja. It also gives us a really great way to get creatures back from the graveyard from our opponents. So that one's always fun. I love effects like that. We've got Hex, another type of board up effect, similar to the Ether Gale, except this time we're destroying creatures. So that's kind of cool. 6 mana, not bad. Next up, we've got the Meteor Golem. That's going to be another type of spot removal. Pretty expensive, but we are playing blue and black, so there might be a couple of effects that we want to get rid of here. So can we get rid of artifacts? Can we get rid of enchantments? Both of those two are going to be pretty tough for us to get rid of. So Meteor Golem is going to kind of take that place. I think there are maybe some better options, and I'll kind of go through them here in a second. But for right now, I'm going to just add in the Meteor Golem. And we've got just 2 cards left over. Silent Blade Oni, another ninja here. And then last, but certainly not least, we've got the Kindred Dominance. That's going to be another board wipe. Works really well with any tribal deck, especially a ninja deck like this one. All right, so let's go ahead and move the ninjas into their respective category. Put them over here. We're going to put the Reconnaissance Mission with our card draw, which we don't really have just yet, do we? Yeah, it doesn't look like we have it, but we're going to put that with the combat damage abilities anyways. We've got the new category here of Protection with the Vesuvian Shapeshifter and the Misdirection. And then last but certainly not least, we've got the board wipes. So we'll go ahead and move that into its own category here. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. We've got a lot of interesting effects that we've got in this deck. We've got 8 ways to enable our Yuriko coming down pretty early. Some of these do cost 2 mana. So I'm going to take a look to see if I can find more 0 or 1 mana versions that have some type of evasion of blockers that we can use with our Yuriko and deal damage that way. I have a feeling we're going to find that pretty easily. And so I'm just going to move these 4 cards all into this category of things that I'm looking to drop here. And I'll definitely want to be adding in more. I think I'd like to go up to at least maybe 10 categories for this effect. I feel like 10 is going to be a nice number where we're going to be mostly seeing it in the majority of our opening hands. Let me see here. We're looking at a 99 card deck. We're going to be drawing 7 cards from that, so that's going to be about 1/14. So we do actually want to have 14 of those cards to give ourselves the best chance of drawing 1, but not 2 of these. So we're going to try to add in 10 more effects that have this cheap converted mana cost and some type of unblockability. Currently, we've only got 7 cards that we're going to be dropping here, so we're going to have to look for a couple more if that's what we actually want to go for here. In terms of really expensive things I'd love to reveal with Yuriko, this category I think would be a lot better if it was a little bit more plump, a little plumper. I don't know, but we want to have a little bit more effects in this category. I'd like to have maybe like 6 to 9 in that area. Like try to have some things that can be cast for like 4 mana or less, but cost, let's say, 8 mana or more. No, let's do 7 mana or more. 7 mana or more, but we can cast it for 4 mana or less, or free. If we can cast it for free, that's also good. Yeah, there's a couple of that I'm thinking about, like off the top of my head. I know Commandeer would be a fantastic card in this deck. It counts as protection, just like we have the Misdirection in this deck. But on top of that, it's also a 7 mana card that we can reveal as all cards of our library, and we can cast for free as long as we exile 2 blue cards from our hand, which, you know, with Yuriko, we're drawing a lot, so it's going to be a problem here. Next up, we've got the ramp. I think that's a good number of ramp. I personally like, a little bit, like I said, ramp that gives us 2 or more mana. If we're playing blue and black, like we're going to easily find enough of that type to fill up the 9 slots. But with Ehren playing these ramp, you know, if this is the ramp you like, let's go for this one. I think that's pretty good. Next up, we've got the Sensei's Divine Top and Brainstorm. I really feel like the library manipulation is going to be a huge part of what's going to make this deck churn really, really well. However, I do want to find things that are going to be either putting like exactly what we want on top, or something that's going to be like kind of reusable. So Brainstorm, it's nice, but it's not going to be as good as some other options here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that one to the drop list as well. Next up, we've got the Scheming Symmetry, the Mystical Tutor. I think both of these cards are pretty good. Obviously, there are some other tutors that are available as well. I'll pull those up really quickly. We've got the Imperial Seal. That's a really expensive one. I don't know if it was reprinted recently, but that one is going to be more on the pricey side. But it's definitely going to be a good one for this deck specifically, because we're going to be able to search for anything. We lose 2 life, we put on top, but it's a sorcery. The one that's even better than this one is Vampiric Tutor. Does the same thing, except this time it's an instant. So that's literally the only difference here. Both of those cards are going to be really good for a deck like this. If I remember correctly, they're also both pretty expensive, so I'm not going to try to add those in here. If you have those, or if you want to go ahead and try to purchase those, and that's something you can add in, and there might be some other places that we can find some things to drop. But yeah, I think these 3 cards are going to be really good for a deck like this. Even the Limduel's Vault, which I'm not a huge fan of normally, I think is going to be really good here. Because let's say we've got those 6 effects here. That was like the minimum in terms of those really expensive cards I wanted to add in. But let's say we've got 6 of those in the deck. We don't have any in our hand. We haven't drawn any this game. Let's say we have, you know, maybe it's turn 3 or turn 4. We've got the Limduel's Vault. We have about, let me see here, maybe 87 cards left in our library if we include a couple of Yuriko triggers as well. So with 87, 6 of those being, you know, those pretty expensive things, let's say they're kind of distributed pretty randomly, pretty, I guess you could say, pretty regularly, which is not going to be guaranteed. Obviously, they could all 6 be at the bottom. That's totally possible. But most of the time, they're going to be, you know, kind of spread around there. Limduel's Vaults is going to be having to make us lose maybe like 10 life. We can find a couple by the time we get there. 10 life is not that big of a deal, especially if we're making each of our opponents lose 10 life. We're playing a pretty aggro deck here. I think Limduel's Vault's fantastic for a deck like this. Next up, we've got the Shrinic Resonator and the Sakashima. I would absolutely, like, I feel like more so than anything else almost, we have to add in, like, the other 2 effects like this, Sakashima and the Spark Double. There's another one that can also work with the Helm of the Host, but that's pretty expensive to get onto our commander. It's going to be 4 mana to cast it, 5 mana to equip it, and sure, every single one of our combats we're going to make a free token that doesn't have the legendary type, but still, that's tough. That's really tough to actually utilize in a deck like this. So Because we can maybe play it out there, play 4 mana, then we pay the 5 mana to equip it, and somebody goes to, destroy it, and then we've just lost, 5 mana for nothing, 4 mana to cast out an artifact that, we're not going to be able to put on Yuriko for a while because we're going to be most likely ninjutsuing her out there. Not going to be trying to wait for her to have haste or for her to lose summoning sickness or anything like that. So I feel like, the Hum of the Host, probably not good enough for this deck, but the other two, the Sakashima and of 1,000 Faces and Spark Double, I think those two are going to be really important for a deck like this. Shrinic Resonator, I think it's a good effect like that, but it's a strict upgrade going from, this one to one of those two that we mentioned. So I'm actually going to say let's drop one of the Shrinic Resonator, add in those two effects. I think we'll be fine. I don't think we'll ever miss that Shrinic Resonator effect from that point on. Lightning Greaves, I think, is going to be pretty important. Giving that Shroud is going to be pretty nice. In terms of anything else like that we'd like to have in a deck like this, I mean, the Equip for 0, that's pretty important. I don't know if we actually want to go for the what's it called? Swiftfoot Boots. Because that's going to be 1 mana to equip it. I don't think that's actually worth it here. I think Lightning Greaves is great because it's 0 mana. And then obviously the other one that we saw earlier, the Whisper Silk Cloak, is also pretty good because it gives the unblockability. So that's an additional benefit for the 2 mana equip cost. But I don't think we actually want to have the Swiftfoot Boots in here. It might actually be good, but I feel like for right now I feel okay without it. We've got the Quietest Spike, the Reconnaissance. I'll be honest, I feel like these two, they're good. They're really interesting. But I think especially the Reconnaissance Mission, I think this one we can probably drop. We're trying to go for so much card draw from Yuriko. Reconnaissance might not be worth that card slot. It's a great card. It would definitely be good in this deck. But I think having it in this deck means that we're not running one other card. And that one other card, at least so far, it feels like it's going to be more important than Reconnaissance. So let's go ahead and drop that one. I do like the Quietest Spike. There are a couple of other effects like this one. So we're going to take a look for some of those and see if any of those we actually want to add into the deck as well. Because with Yuriko, making people lose a lot of life, that's going to help us be pretty fast. So I don't mind that at all. Next category, we've got the Imperial Plate. I'll be honest, this is kind of a nice fun card. It might be like Ehren's signature card for this deck, where it's like nobody else is playing this one, but I love it. I think it's good. But I have to admit, I think, like I mentioned with the Reconnaissance Mission, it would be good when you play it, out there. But having that slot be this card kind of takes away from the fact that you probably want something else that would be even better. So I'm going to say to drop this one as well. And I know right now we're already up to 11 cards that were dropped. This is kind of normal when I do a deck doctor, where I go through a lot of different things. Now here's the category where I'm a little bit nervous, I'll be honest, with the ninjas. Because the ninjas, on one hand, they're gonna make Yuriko trigger a lot more. And we're already trying to add in 2 Sakashima effects to be able to get more triggers off of Yuriko. But the downside here is that the majority of these cards have no evasion. Look at this one. Nope, none here. Throat Seeker, we don't have anything here. We do have this one. The Phantom Ninja does have unblockability. The Walker of Secrets, this one kind of... Well, not really. It doesn't have any type of evasion here. I had to read that effect pretty soon here. Indestructibility, that's not going to count. We've got the Ingenious Infiltrator. That's not going to count either. We've got the Mistblade Shinobi. That's not going to have evasion. Mist Syndicate Naga, not going to have evasion. Sakashima Student, not going to have evasion. Okiba Gang Shinobi, not going to have evasion. So, the majority of these don't have an evasion here. Next up, we've got the Ink Eyes. This one has the Regenerate, but that doesn't really count. It just makes it so that if it does get blocked, it's not as bad. No evasion here. We've got here the Higure. This one's kind of cool because we can pay 2 mana to give things evasion. So that one counts for multiple categories. And then here, this one doesn't have it either. So the majority of our ninjas don't have evasion. And I think that's really, really important for this deck. We've got a couple of cards here that I like here. So for example, Tetsuko. Really cool, gives our unblockability to our creatures, also doubles up as a way that we can attack. For 2 mana, it's not going to be what we're looking for as an optimum effect, but for 2 mana, to be able to give our other creatures with power or toughness 1 or less unblockability, that's pretty good. Let me see how many we've got of those. So we've got here, that one would count, this one would not, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, this one kind of counts 5, 6, well that's not going to be a 6th one actually, so it looks like just 5. Yeah, so we've only got 5 cards being granted Tetsuko and our commander. But you know what? That might be too little. That might be too few cards being granted unblockability. I'd like to go for things that cost 4 mana or less and generate unblockability. But I'd love to give it to all my ninjas regardless of their power and toughness. So Tetsuko, I feel like we can drop, because it doesn't give it to all of our ninjas. Smoke Shroud gives it to only one of our ninjas, so that's also not going to be great. I know it does kind of recur itself, but it's an aura. It kind of needs to recur itself to be worth the fact that it's an aura. If it wasn't an aura, it just gave it to one ninja, we wouldn't need to recur it. So I feel like the recursion ability isn't going to be as important here. Whisper Silk Cloak, I like this one. It does only give it to one creature, but it has Shroud. I'm going to move this over to the next category though, because I feel like the fact that we're adding it is because it gives both. So it's not going to be good enough for the unblockability. It's not going to be good enough for the Shroud individually, but for both, I think it's still pretty good here. Key to the City only gives it to one creature at a time. And then lastly, Whirler Rogue also only gives it to one creature at a time. So we definitely want to add in some more ways to give unblockability. And with all this card draw in the deck, I think we don't need to run as many of the unblockability effects as we would need to run of the cheap creatures. So I'm going to say if we can have like 8 of these effects, I'm going to be pretty happy. We're going to move the Cyclonic Rift with the board wipes that I did not put together. Read the Bones. We actually have so much card draw with our commander, I don't think we actually need to read the Bones either. It does have the Scry too, but we're going to be adding in some more library manipulation where this doesn't really, it's not going to be as bad for us. In terms of spot removal and counter spells, we only have 2 in here. I'd like to add in 2 more spot removal. I think that's going to be really helpful for us. Some Pillow Fort might be nice as well. Some more ways to protect our commander might be nice. We're going to move this here with the Shroud, because I guess those all kind of count. Yeah, having some more ways to protect our commander, I think would be really nice here. Obviously, the counter spells kind of double up for that one, but I think for right now, we're just going to look to add those in. And then we got the board wipes right here. So we got a lot of things that we're going to be dropping here. Let's go to pull them all out so we can kind of take a look to see how many spots we've got for adding things in here. So we've got 16 cards we're going to be dropping. I think right off the bat, we've got to add in 10 really cheap, like 1 mana creatures that have unblockability. I think that's like number 1. We've got 10 of those. Those are already, slotted in. Like those are you can take that to the bank. We've got 6 spots for other things. We know for a fact that we're going to be adding in the 2 other Sakashima effects, so that gives us 4 cards to work with. I'd like to add in some more library manipulation. I'd like to add in some more, expensive cards here in this category. So if that's what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to have to add drop some more cards here. So I think for the library manipulation, I'd like to add in 2 cards. So that brings us down to 2. And then for this category, I'd like to add in 3 more cards. So we need to drop 1 more card here. But we got this ability as well. There's a lot of things kind of all interplaying here. Do we drop some of the ramps since this deck is going to be, doing so much at such a low curve? I don't think so. Yeah, so kind of going back to my point here about the ninjas, I felt pretty nervous about this ninja category because if we're trying to make Yuriko as good as possible, then we're only going to want to have like the cheapest of the cheap ninjas. We're going to want to drop all the expensive ones. So this one's 3 mana ninjutsu. This is a 4 mana ninjutsu. This is a 6 mana ninjutsu. It's got a great ability, don't get me wrong. This one's got a 5 mana ninjutsu ability. But I feel like anything that's costing like 5 or more mana for ninjutsuing out, or just for hard casting, then those are going to be cards that we're probably going to want to drop here. Everything else here though looks okay. I will say that here the Throat Seeker is also kind of a weird one. It is a ninja, but then again, so is like every other changeling. So we're not adding in the changelings, but we're adding in this one. How good is that lifelink in this deck? Because that's going to be the key difference here. Are we going to be getting a lot of life from that lifelink? And the answer is, I don't think so. A lot of our creatures are pretty small. Yuriko is going to make each opponent lose life, not going to be dealing the damage. So I feel like the lifelink is going to be pretty slow over the course of the game for the most part. Let's drop this one. In terms of our protection, we've got 2 things here which are sorcery speed, but keep it protected, permanently in the Lightning Greaves and the Whisper Silk Cloak. We've got the Misdirection, which is going to be protecting it for free, so for 0 mana. Vesuvian Shapeshifter, kind of like the odd one out here. It is going to be an instant speed reaction spell, but it's costing us 2 mana in order to go for that. So you know what? I kind of feel like we can drop that one. We're already planning on adding in the Commandeer, which is such a cool effect. Let me go ahead and pull this one up here so you can see it. Such a cool effect. It's hard for me to play. Like, I want to play it, but it's like I also don't. But I think this deck is perfect for. So for 7 mana, it's instant. We can exile 2 blue cards from our hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. But the effect here is we can gain control of target non-creature spell and choose new targets for it. So let's say somebody is casting Murder, right, on Yuriko. We can get rid of those cards from our hand, get the Commandeer onto the stack, and we can move that Murder from our commander to maybe another creature that's pretty scary for us. Someone's got maybe a Cyclonic Rift out, or a Consecrated Sphinx out there. We want to get rid of that Consecrated Sphinx. Commandeer is going to be a great way for us to do that. So I love this card for this deck. It's going to protect our commander. It's going to be a big thing that we can cast for free. It seems like it was made for Yuriko, in my opinion. So we've got Commandeer. We also got the Spark Double and the other Sakashima. Let's go and add those two in here as well. And I'm going to try to get this up to the 8 cards that we're already trying to add in. And then from there, figure out what else we can do. I actually have the Meteor Golem in the wrong spot here. So we've got 4 board wipes, 3 spot removal. I'd like to add in 1 more, because I think that's going to be pretty important for us. It's tough, because we want to add in more Pillow Fort. We would like to add in more things like Quiet as Spike, but I don't think we have that room. We don't have room for that one. Unless we drop the Silent Blade Oni, which I think might be actually the right thing to go for here. It is pretty cool. We can cast a spell from somebody's hand without paying its mana cost, but we don't know who to pick, and when we do pick them, it might not even be a card that we actually want to get from the hand. So I think we can drop that one and not really cry about it too much. I think that's going to be fine. So let me think about this here. We're dropping 19 cards, and most of these cards we're doing like strict upgrades, so we're not really changing the strategy of the deck. If anything, we're kind of streamlining it, making it more efficient, making it better. Yeah, so we're going to have those 10 cards there. We've already got 1 card in this slot, so we need to have 2 more expensive cards. I might look that up really quickly and figure out what else we want to add in. Let's go ahead and add in the other Sakashima while I'm doing that, though. And so while this is going, let's go ahead and go to the other tab here. Let's look for things that are going to be really expensive, but have an effect that allows us to cast it for a lot cheaper. So I want to be looking for things here that have a CMC greater than 6, so anything that's 7 or higher. I want to look for things that are inner color identity, legal in commander, and then now we're going to look up for the things that have abilities that can be cast for less. Obviously, Delve is one of them. We've also got Improvise as another option. Affinity is going to also count. What else can we go here? Delve, Improvise, Affinity. We can go for things that say rather. We can say instead. We can say... Well, we'll look up anything that says 0, right? Because that's going to count as well. I'm looking for any words that are going to be kind of like the big, flashing red lights that, hey, this might be castable for free or for a lot less. Rather, instead... we're going to put here less to cast. That's going to be another one here. We'll just put here less and then cast. That's probably better. What else do we want to go for? Rather, instead, we got Delve, we got Improvise. I don't think there's anything with Convoke, but let's just add it in there for completeness sake. And I think that's it. Convoke, Affinity, Improvise, and Delve. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and look this up here. And while I'm getting that search result, I'm going to open up a new tab, this yagatalk.com. This is the comprehensive rules for Magic the Gathering. I like using this one because sometimes I want to look up a certain mechanic. So obviously right now I'm using Delve. Delve is something that I'm looking up in this thing here because I want to see what things are going to be worded very similarly to Delve. So let's look up Delve. And it comes up here, static ability that functions while the spell with Delve is on the stack. For each generic mana in the spell's total cost, you may exile a card from your graveyard rather than pay the mana. So let me see here if I can find things that say rather than pay. Rather than pay. Alternative cost, okay. So we're looking for anything that has an alternative cost. That's the name of it. Convoke, we've got that here. Delve, we've got that. Improvise, we've got that added. This is talking about alternative costs. We've got static abilities. Flashback, that's not going to really count. Madness is not going to count either. Morph doesn't really count either. Although, does it? Are there any morph spells that are, like, really expensive? You know what? Let me look that up. Let me add morph here. And, I mean, there's not likely... Well, let's give it a shot. Let's just see if there's anything. If there is something that's good, yeah, cool. Let's do morph, and then we'll put that here. Next up, we're going to go for... that's the continuing on. Convoke, we already saw that one. Delve, that's where we started. Evoke. That one's an interesting one. We've also got Prowl, which I think works really well with ninjas. So let's put Prowl, and what was the other one that I said here? Evoke. That's what it was. Evoke. Let's keep going down, though. Let's see what else we can find. We've got Overload. That one's usually the other way around. It's going to be a smaller cost, but we are going to be casting it for a lot more mana. Awaken, also kind of the same thing as that one. Surge will definitely count. So let's look up Surge, see if we can find anything else with Surge. Let's keep going, though. We've got Emerge here. That one also counts. I don't know if there's anything in here that will be good enough with Emerge, but might as well look it up and see what we can find. And then next up, we've got Improvise, which you already saw. Spectacle. I think there might be some black cards with Spectacle that are going to be important for us. Oops. Let's do Spectacle as well. Spectacle. And, yeah, next up we've got Escape. That's going to be kind of like Flashback, so not going to work there. Mutate also doesn't really work as well. Foretell, we'll look it up. I mean, I don't think there's anything that's going to be worth it with Foretell for this deck, but can't hurt to check, right? And let's see what else we've got here. Foretell, and that's it. That was all of them. All right, so let's see what we've got here. Treasure Cruise, I think, is a great example of a card we'd love to have in a deck like this. So let's open up Treasure Cruise. I think that's, well, we don't have to open it up technically. Let's keep that in our mind here. We've got the Treasure Cruise that we can add in. We're going to go and add in the other Sakashima here, which is the Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. And then we're going to look up the Treasure Cruise while I go back to this one. All right, so Dig Through Time we've got in the deck already. Nexus of Fate and Blightsteel Colossus don't really count. Emrakul, the Promised End. You know what? It's only going to be 7 mana at the cheapest. So that's not going to be low enough for us to count for the things that we can make, you know, cost cheaper. Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth. I don't think we have enough black in our converted mana cost to make Kirik worth it here. I mean, we have a little bit, but it looks like it's mostly blue in the deck anyways. Yeah, mostly blue here. So Kirik, I don't think is going to be worth it for this deck. We've got the Diluvian Primordial. We've already got the Temporal Trespass. This one's not really going to count. Magic Mirror is an interesting one. Instants and sorceries in our graveyard. I don't think we've got that many in the deck, right? Mostly creatures. We've got here 4, 6. Nothing there. So, or actually 7. We've got 8 from the Misdirection. 9, 10, 11. 12, 13, 14. Yeah, not a whole lot here. 14 instants and sorceries. I don't think Magic Mirror is going to be coming down pretty... it's not going to be coming down often enough for it to matter. Metalwork Colossus. This one's going to be costing X less or X of the total converted mana cost of non-creature artifacts we control. However, unlike the other effects we've got in here, so we've got the Temporal Trespass, gives us an extra turn, that's always good. Curse of the Cabal, that one's going to be good because it makes us sacrifice things here, that's always awesome. Dig Through Time allows us to kind of get another card back, same thing with the Treasure Cruise. There's a lot of things in here that I would love to see that actually do something. I think the one thing that I'm worried about with the Metalwork Colossus is that, sure, we get it out there, but then it's just a 10-10 that's not really doing a whole lot. Just being blocked by pretty much everything. I don't think it's going to be that helpful for us. Avatar of Woe, on the other hand, I think that's going to be pretty good. It's got Fear, so worst case scenario, we can use it to get some more things out there. But having creature cards in graveyards, that's pretty easy to do. Like, let's say we lose one of our creatures, somebody else loses 2, the third person loses 2 as well. We got a 2 on somebody else's. That's pretty close to the 10, right? We only have to have 3 more creatures enter the graveyard, and that's not even that many. Like, I feel like this is going to come down for 2 mana very, very often. So Avatar of Woe is another card I'd like to add in here. Avatar of Woe. It does a lot of things for this deck. It can get rid of blockers. It can get rid of... we can get in through the blockers because it's got Fear. We can ninjutsu it out there. It's going to cost a lot. I feel pretty good about the Avatar of Woe for a deck like this. Next up here, we've got the Ancient Stone Idol. Same thing with this one. It's a big 12/12. I guess it's got Flash and Trample. So we're getting attacked with a bunch of creatures. We can kind of flash it out there for a lot less. Let's see. Let's say we're attacking with 6 creatures. We can get it out there for 4. We're getting attacked with 6 creatures. We can get it out there for 4. 12/12 Trample. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of on the fence with that one. We'll see if we find anything else that's better. If not, then we will go for the Ancient Stone Idol. Next up, we've got Not of This World. This is a counterspell that can be for free. However, you specifically have to target a creature with power 7 or greater. Not going to be happening in this deck, I would hope at least. Darksteel Colossus doesn't really count. Into the Story, I do like this one a lot. This one can cost 4 mana to draw 4 cards at instant speed. All you have to have is just one opponent who has Threshold. That's super easy in Commander. So yeah, Into the Story is definitely a great one I would love to add into this deck here. Into the Story. Yeah, well, I kind of talked about how we're not really wanting to add in that much card draw, and then we're just adding a bunch of card draw anyways. I don't know, it's just kind of funny to me. Thought Reflection is not going to be casting any less. I don't think we're going to have that many creatures in our graveyard. At least I hope not. Next up here, we've got the Knowledge Exploitation, but this only counts if we deal damage with the Rogue. And ninjas and rogues are actually separate here in Magic, so that's not going to count for this one. Next up here, we've got the Elder Deep Fiend, 7 mana with the Emerge cost. It does require us to cast to lose one of our own creatures. So, I mean, it can technically it is going to be cast for less, but it's more good for like a 1v1 situation compared to Commander. I don't think that's actually that great here for Commander. Mycosynth Golem, we don't have that many artifact creature spells in our deck, so that's not going to be that helpful in terms of just raw power, what it can do. One target player's life total becomes half their starting life total rounded down. So it makes somebody's life total become 20. I don't know how helpful that is for a deck like this because we're not wanting to sacrifice our own creatures anyways. You know, I think that's enough of a reason for us to not want to add it in. The Improvise from the Herald of Anguish. This does allow us to sacrifice our artifacts to get rid of other creatures, and it makes our opponents discard cards. But, you know, ultimately I don't think it's that helpful for us here, to be honest. I like the Commandeer. We've already got that one in here. Prowl, like I mentioned before, is not going to be as helpful for this deck. We don't have a bunch of Eldrazi spawns to sacrifice. We don't have creatures that we want to sacrifice here. That one doesn't count. That one is a morph ability. Whenever it's turned face up, turn any number of target creatures with morph other than, well, Weaver of Lies face down. Yeah, we're not playing a morph deck, so that's not going to be that helpful for us here. We're not playing a 5-color deck. This one doesn't do anything on its own. I think from this point on, it's just a bunch of stuff that's not going to be that helpful for us. Yeah, I mean, most of this stuff here, yeah, it doesn't look like that's great. Target player sacrifices 2 creatures. That's not worth delving, I think. As weird as that sounds. Like the delve, we can do it, but we can't do it with every spell. We want to have like a very limited number of delve spells in this deck. And, you know, adding a 4th one in for a dead drop, I don't think is worth it. Next up here, we've got Snowlands. But again, this doesn't really do anything. I think that's pretty much it. Do we need to have one more card? And we'd want to add in the card that I mentioned here earlier, the Ancient Stone Idol. Let me keep going down here. Let me just do a quick glance. Emerge, Affinity. That one counters a spell, but... oh, I guess it doesn't. Well, we're not going to have that many artifacts, I think. 5 artifacts on the battlefield is not quite what we're going to be going for. So Delve here, this is Foretell for 5, but this allows us to cast things for anywhere other than our hand for 2 lives, but we're not doing that with this deck. 1 less, yeah, just a 6/5 on the ground. Anything else here? So far it looks like we're good. Doesn't look like there's anything else we'd like to add in here. We do have a trap card, which is kind of cool. Target player loses 5 life and you gain 5 life for 1 mana. I just don't think it's worth the card slot, to be honest. It does, you know, we will make people lose 7 life from it, but, you know, it's not worth the effect. And like I said, I want to have every card that I'm adding in here worth the effect. That's kind of a huge part of what we're trying to do with this deck. Let me see if there's anything here on the last page. Looking at what we've got here, it looks pretty good. I think we're okay with what we've got. Let me see how many cards we're adding in here. So we're adding in the Treasure Cruise. We're adding in the Into the Story. We're adding in the Commandeer. So that's 3 cards. We've got currently 3 cards in the deck. That's bringing it up to 6. I did want to try to aim for 9, but I'm happy with 6. I think 6 is good. I'm going to go ahead and add in the Ancient Stone Idol, and if I find that that I didn't actually need that one in here, I can just drop that one and make room for another card to add in instead. But now we've got 7. I feel pretty good about that. Was there anything else, actually, that I wanted to add in here? Anything that was kind of like borderline? Let me just keep going down here. I don't think there was anything. Cauldron doesn't make sense here. All the sacrifice stuff. I think Herald of Anguish was the only other card that I was like, maybe. But the artifacts that we got on the battlefield, we're already using them for mana anyways. So we're not like we don't have a bunch of artifacts that are not being tapped for mana. So that's not really doing anything for us to improvise. What else do we got here? Vexing Scuttler. I don't think that's gonna be that helpful. Foretell. You know, let's go down to there's that one that lets us gain 5 life. I know that I kind of talked about how that one's not that great. Let's go ahead and get rid of a few of these here. So Delve is not that good. Improvise is not that good. Affinity is not that good. Let me see here. Less to cast. Convoke. Yeah, Convoke, we didn't see anything. I didn't see anything with Morph that was important. Prowl doesn't count for ninjas. Evoke. I didn't see anything that had Evoke. Well, let's just put it back on there. Evoke. And I'll put the pipe right between cast and Evoke. Surge, Emerge, Spectacle, and Foretell. Let's take a look at these, because I think we had too many Delve cards that we were kind of missing, you know, the full picture here. Alright, so these don't count. We did see the Imrakul, the Promised Land, but again, there's no way we're going to make it cast, be cast for 4 mana or less. We'd have to have 5 instants and sorceries in our graveyard. We've got only 14 in the deck to make Magic Mirror work. There's no way we're going to have a third of our, instants and sorceries in our graveyard every game to make this worth casting. Avatar of Woe, I think, is going to be a lot easier, because, you know, I think people are going to be getting rid of their own creatures. It happens very often. Board outs can get rid of creatures all the time. And it's in all graveyards, all graveyards. So if somebody's milling themselves, like Avatar of Woe is going to be super easy to cast for 2 mana. We've got the Ancient Stone Idol. I like it because it's a 12/12 trampler. That can help us close out the game, or at the very least, be something that we can use, flash it out there, block something that's pretty big that's attacking us. We can also use it to use ninjutsu, get something out there on the battlefield for free. I want to try to avoid the Emerge cards because I don't think there's anything I'd like to... Like, there's no effect big enough off of an Emerge effect that's worth sacrificing one of our really, really key creatures here. Because especially we'd have to sacrifice something. Let me see here. This is 7 mana. We'd have to sacrifice a 3-drop or greater. If we're playing something that's 3 mana, it's because it's really good in this deck. Let me see here. Gates we don't have a lot of. We're not sacrificing our own creatures. Affinity for artifacts. So Assert Authority. It is kind of cool. How many artifacts do we have in this deck, though? I need to check first. So we're going to be having in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 so far. On this other page, we've got here 6 plus 9. That's 15. 16. Yeah, to have, how many do we need? We want to cast this at least for 4 mana or less. We'd have to have 3 of our 14. That's a 5th. I feel like I'm okay because we don't want to have that many artifacts anyway, so we're probably not going to be trying to keep them around there. I think Assert the Authority, man, it's so close. It's like borderline. I'm going to keep that on the top of my head. We might actually add that one in here. This one can't be blocked for 6 mana. Not that great. More Emerge stuff. Drawing cards not going to be that good for us here. At least not worth it, at least. Deals 4 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 4 life. You know, if the Needle Bite Trap's not worth it, I don't think that one's going to be worth it. We also have to make sure that somebody gains life in a turn before we can cast it for 1 mana. This one we have to lose 2 black cards from our hand. I think this, like both of those effects are just not good enough for a deck like this. This is going to be a big creature. This is the Evoke card that we talked about. Target player discards 2 cards. Yeah, I don't think that's very helpful. If an opponent has no cards in hand, this costs 6 less to play. That's so hard to keep around. Unlike the Avatar of Woe, where people having creatures in their graveyard, that's really easy in Commander. Somebody having no cards in hand, that's really tough. That's not going to happen. At least not very often, at least. So it costs 2 less. Well, that's not enough less for that to be worth it. Yeah, the only other one that I saw here was Assert Authority. I kind of like it, though. It is one of those things that's like, is it going to be worth it or not? Like, it's kind of, you know, iffy. But I think we could add it in there, and I feel pretty happy about adding that one. Out of all the ones I feel okay dropping, I'd love to drop the Admiral's Order for it because having that many, well, I guess having counterspells in the deck is not necessarily a bad thing. It also fills up to the 4 spots that I wanted to have for the counterspell / removal. So I guess that is kind of nice. Yeah, so we're up to 8 cards in that category. That makes me feel a lot better for the expensive things that can be cast for a lot less. Alright, so we've got 7 cards. We can add in 2 more. And then we got to go to adding in the cheap unblockable creatures. Okay, so we've got this one done. We got to add this one later, but we're going to do that last. I want to add in 2 more cards for the library manipulation. The 2 that I'm thinking of is going to be Scroll Rack, and then the other one is going to be what is it? Scroll Rack and Crystal Ball. Now that might be why we saw that Scroll of Fate in here. I was like kind of looking at it weird, like what's going on. But I think that might have been either a mistake in the entering Scroll of Fate instead of Scroll Rack. But I think Scroll Rack is going to be really good for a deck like this one. And then the other one here is going to be Crystal Ball. Crystal Ball is a nice one because it allows you to scry too, and you can do that repeatedly. So it's a little different than Scroll Rack and different than the Sensei's Divining Top, but it is kind of nice. So I like that one. Scrying 2 I think is way more important for a Yuriko deck than Scrying 1 because it gives you twice as many options, and you can get both of those out of the way and hope that the 3rd card is good for your deck. So yeah, Crystal Ball, I like that one. I think that one's pretty good here. Okay, so let's see what else we want to add in here. We got the library manipulation. The only 2 effects in the deck that I'd like to add more of, besides the cheap unblockable creatures, is going to be the Quietest Spike effect and the Propaganda effect. I think both of these cards are going to be pretty good, but I'd like to have at least one of the 2 in there. Quietest Spike, let me think about this one. The Quietest Spike, we're going to deal damage. Oh, no, actually there's something more important. I'm going to drop both of these cards because there's something I need to add in more than these. And that's going to be unblockability. I definitely need to have that one in the deck. So the more cards we can drop for this, the better. What else can I drop to make room for that? I'd like to have at least 4 of those effects in this deck here. I mean, everything else here looks pretty good. Do we drop these 2 for the protection? But I feel like the protection is so important. Yuriko is like a huge target. No, I think what we've got to drop here, we've got to drop the Ancient Stone Idol and the Assert Authority. Because we gotta make room. We absolutely have to have those unblockability permanents on the battlefield. All right, so this one's gonna be a little bit easier. We're gonna try to find things here for CMC less than 5, because we want to find things that are CMC 4 or less. Okay, so we're gonna look for things that say creatures or each creature or ninjas. If we can find something that says ninjas, that's fine. We can also look for each ninja. That could also be helpful for us. But the next thing we wanted to say is either like flying or intimidate or fear or can't be blocked, or what else do we have here? Trample, but I don't think that's going to be, well, we probably don't even want trample because our creatures are small and dinky. Protection, that's definitely going to work. Protection from creatures would work here. We've got the shadow walk, or shadow, we'll add in shadow, we'll add in horsemanship. I know you laugh, but I mean the horsemanship might actually come up here. I know there's one 6-drop creature that can give horsemanship to all your creatures. That's not bad. But we're not going to be obviously finding that one with this search. Flying, intimidate, fear, can't be blocked, protection, shadow, horsemanship. So we got the walk ability. So plains walk, mountain walk, swamp walk, island walk, that kind of stuff. And I think that's it, right? I think that's pretty much it. You know, we've got this here. Let me go and open this up here. Can't be blocked. Since we've got the Yagatalk opened, let's just take a look for things that say can't be blocked. So abilities. So declare blocker step. We've got intimidate, flying. We've already got land walk. We've got protection. We don't have reach, so that doesn't count. Shadow we've got. Horsemanship we've got. Fear we've got. Menace we don't have, but that's still pretty easy to block here. Skulk can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. I think it's going to be hard to ensure that our creatures are going to be the smallest creatures. I talked about how they're small and they're dinky, but they're not always going to be like the only 1/1s on the battlefield. People like to make 1/1 tokens all the time, so Skulk is not going to be that great. And that's it. That's all of them. All right, so let's see what we can find with those. Since that's going to be everything that I can think of. All right, so we've got the Tetsuku. I talked about that one not being that great. Why is this one coming up? Oh, Planeswalker. So let's fix this one here. How do we fix this one, actually? Let's just do this. Let's look up things that say walk and see if we can get that, if we can get that one fixed. So anything here that says walk is going to be good for us, because then we can kind of eliminate just the walk stuff. Planeswalkers, swamp walk, but that's just for zombie creatures. This is just for merfolk. This one is going to count. We give all of our creatures swamp walk. Do we have Urborg in the deck? Is my next question now. Do we have the Urborg in there? Because that can make the filth really good. We can make it filthy good. Sorry about the pun. Let me see here. Urborg. It's going to be at the bottom. We've got it. We don't have the Urborg in the deck, but that is going to be a good one. So Urborg, let me pull it up here in case you haven't seen it just yet. It's going to be a land that can make all lands on the battlefield equal, gain swamp as a subtype. But I like filth. I think that one's going to be pretty good. So filth is one of the ones that we're looking for. Hexproof from planeswalkers. Draw. So that one's going to give flying. All creatures lose flying and island walk. Well, that's the opposite of what we want. We want it to give them that, not make them lose that. And that's pretty much it. We don't actually have anything else here that gives a walk ability besides the filth. So what we'll do here is we'll get rid of the walk, and then we'll get rid of this walk as well. Okay, so filth. That's the first card I'd like to add in for unblockability. And I think it's actually kind of, here's the Urborg, by the way, if you were looking to see what it looks like. But I missed it. I missed my chance. But that's okay. Filth, we'll go ahead and add this one in there as well. So yeah, the really tricky thing about filth and cards like it is you can play it out there for 4 mana, and then you just literally never attack with it. Because if somebody does attack you with creatures, and you can block one of them, you're going to love to block it with filth, right? So then people are going to say, I can't attack them on the ground at all, because if I do, filth goes away. I can't force them to sacrifice creatures, because if I do, filth is going to go away. Bull Ripes, filth goes into the graveyard. So filth kind of does 2 things at once. It puts your opponents into a position where they either have to choose, am I going to make sure that that person has swamp walk onto all of their ninjas, unless I can get rid of the graveyard, or do I just not attack them with creatures on the ground? So it kind of puts them into a weird situation, not being attacked, not being forced to sacrifice creatures, no Bull Ripes. That can all help us out with filth, kind of indirectly there. Okay, next up here we've got, so this is going to create creatures with flying. Wonder is going to be another card just like that one. Let's keep going down, see what else we can get here that can give creatures some type of ability. Things that can give it to Slivers. I do like the Cover of Darkness. Let's add that one in as well. So we're going to go for Wonder and for Cover of Darkness. Those 2 being added in are going to be really good for us here. Let's go ahead and add in the Wonder here first, though. Wonder, and then the Cover of Darkness. And I know there's also Levitation. I'm going to go ahead and add that one in here because I know about it. So we'll add that one here just because it's just going to be a card I know I'd like to add. Cover of Darkness, and then Levitation. That's going to give all of our creatures flying. 4 mana enchantment, really good. I love it. I think it's really good. And it's surprising I don't actually have a copy, because I would have assumed by this point I'd have one, because it's just so cool. Let's keep going down here. I should have gotten rid of all the non-permanents, but I guess it's too late now. What else can we do that gives our creatures a way to get around blockers? Nothing so far. Nothing. Yeah, here's the levitation that I mentioned earlier. That gives it to golems. Everything else is just giving it unblockability or, you know, some type to themselves, not actually giving it to our other creatures. All creatures gain fear until end of turn, but that's just a sorcery. That's an aura. Here's a sorcery aura. Creatures. Flying. That's a equipment. That's an aura. This is a, you know, creature that has flying on its own. Yeah, not a whole lot here in terms of things that can give it to all of our creatures. But for right now, yeah, so here we've got the Student of Elements. We can give flying to this one. It'll flip and give it to all of our creatures. But you know what? I don't think it's going to be that likely that we can give it flying. That's not something that we're doing a lot in this deck, so it's not good enough. Next up, let's see what else we can add in here. All creatures lose flying and eye lock. I mean, like I said, once we get to this point, it's, you know, there's probably not going to be anything here that we're going to want. That's usually how it works at this point. Shadow, yeah. I feel like at this point we're pretty much good. There's nothing here that I think I'd like to add in. Also some more sorceries I can give it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Well, we actually have another page in here. So let's see if we can find anything at this point. Yeah, I think that's it. Nothing that I'm seeing. Okay, cool. So we've got those unblockability effects: Filth, Wonder, Cover of Darkness, and Levitation. I think those are all really good effects for us to have. Very, very cheap, very easy to add in. And we've got room for 10 more cards. It's exactly what we were looking for, to have a cheap one-drop creature being able to attack. To make our Yuriko attack pretty much every turn too, as much as possible. Okay, so we've got room for 10 more. Let's go ahead and add those 10 more cards. So this is pretty simple. We're going to look for things that have a converted mana cost less than 2. We want to make sure that they're creatures. And then they have to have... Well, actually, we can go back to what we used, right? We can just use those things. So we're going to get rid of this thing. We're going to say it is a creature. So we've got these things here. I'm going to also add in the walk, because we might find some things that actually care about things that that can, you know, have swamps or islands or anything like that. We can go for those. Walking Ballista, Westville Abbey, those are not going to count. We do have the Siren, Storm Tamer. Let me take a look to see what we've already got in the deck, because that's pretty important for this. So in the deck, we've got Ornithopter, Tormented Soul, Changeling Outcast, and Gudul Lurker. Gudul Lurker? Gudul? I don't know. We've got the Siren Storm Tamer. I actually really like this card. It doubles up as a way to protect our creatures. So let's add in the Siren Storm Tamer as well. Siren Storm Tamer. We'll add this one into the deck as well. Next up, we've got Changeling Outcast. We already got the Slither Blade, though we do not have. So we'll definitely want to add that one into the deck. Slither Blade. Next up, we've got... So this one has protection from multicolored and trample. I don't think that's worth it, though. We've got the Triton Shore Stalker. That one does seem good. What does it say? Triton Shore Stalker. Triton Shore Stalker. What did I just look up that didn't come up here? Slither Blade? Oh, I searched it up as one word. Slither Blade. Let's do that one. We'll put in the Triton Shore Stalker here in a second. Also the Hope of Yuriko. Also the Fairy Seer. And then also the Spectral Sailor. All 4 of these cards are going to be good for a deck like this. Alright, so Slither Blade, add that one in. We've got the Triton Shore Stalker. I'm getting mad at myself because I'm not remembering the names here. Hope of Yuriko is going to be next. Let's get that one added. There it is. Hope of Yuriko is next. Hope of Yuriko. Alright, next up we've got the Fairy Seer. Okay. Add in the Hope. Add in the Fairy Seer. Fairy Seer. Next up is going to be the Spectral Sailor. Alright, Spectral Sailor. We'll add in the Fairy Seer here. Search up the Spectral Sailor. And then let's keep going down. We've got the Mist Cloaked Herald. That also has unblockability. Let's add that one in as well. So, Mist Cloaked Herald. Okay, next up we've got the Artificer's Assistant. I like this one. I don't think we've got a lot of historic spells in this deck, but it doesn't really matter. We're trying to go for the 1 mana, 1/1 flying. That's really the more important part here anyways. So we've got the Mist Cloaked Herald. Let's add that one in as well. Next up, we're going to be adding in the, Artificer's Assistant. Artificer's Assistant. Okay, add that one in as well. Next up, we've got the Mothless Changeling. It can be granted flying, but doesn't have it naturally. We've got the Shrieking Drake, which requires us to return a creature to our hand, so it doesn't really count anymore. This one requires us to pay mana to make it unblockable. We've got the Tormented Soul already in the deck. And then Hypnotic Siren, I like it because it has 2 abilities here. We can either cast it for its 1 mana version where we can just have a 1/1 flyer, or if we have the extra mana, we can use that 7 mana bestow ability and gain control of another creature. I love it. That's something that I always like to do. So Hypnotic Siren is the next one. We're kind of running out here at towards the end. Hypnotic Siren. We might end up having to just drop one of the a couple of the cards that don't do anything else except be unblockable, or like they're just having flying, because we have a lot of flying so far. That might be what we're gonna go for here. Just trying to get just the flyers out from the deck. We've got the Gale Rider Sliver. I like that one. We've also got the Jace's Phantasm. I think both of those are pretty good. Let's add the Hypnotic Siren into the deck. We're gonna add in the, what did I say it was? Gale Rider Sliver. And then the next one is going to be the Jace's Phantasm. Jace's Phantasm. Let's add in the Gale Rider Sliver, add in the Jace's Phantasm, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just add in all the cards. Let's see how many creatures we gotta remove, and then from there we decide which ones are gonna be the best ones to remove here. So Jace's Phantasm, this one can be given flying, but doesn't have it innately. Mausoleum Wanderer does. Merfolk Windrobber also does. So let's go for both of those. Mausoleum Wanderer, I think it was. Mausoleum Wanderer, yep, there it is. We've got the Jace's Phantasm already added into the deck. The next one is going to be the Merfolk Windrobber. Merfolk Windrobber. So we're just going to wait for the other one to pull up here. It might just be that I didn't click it all the way. So Mausoleum Wanderer is going to be the next one. Let's go ahead and get this one first. Mausoleum Wanderer. Add in the Merfolk Windrobber here. Add in the Mausoleum Wanderer. Oops. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is Mausoleum Wanderer. I thought for a second it was not the right one. This one's not going to be able to give itself Intimidate. Signal Pest I like a lot. It does. It's not even dealing the damage, but it has flying, and it also has Battle Cry. So if we can get it out there and give our other, ninjas additional +1/+1, that seems pretty good with a Signal Pest. I don't mind. All right, next up, Signal Pest. Signal Pest. This reminds me back when I played Standard. Signal Pest was a card I liked a lot. It wasn't very good, but I liked it. We'll add in the Signal Pest here. And then next up, Shadowborn Apostle doesn't really count. We've got the Cloudfin Raptor. That's definitely going to count. Same thing with the Terramander. Fairy Miscreant. It does count. We're never going to get that additional benefit off of it, though. So let's just add in these next ones. Cloudfin Raptor. So yeah, the reason I'm adding in the flying, even though I know I've got plenty of flying, it really does feel like no one, there's never going to be a game where every single one of our opponents has a flying blocker. Or at least that's not going to happen that often. I mean, I feel like that's super unlikely. Turn 2, everybody's got a flyer. Like, come on, really? I don't think that's going to happen. Cloudfin Raptor, let's add that one into the deck. Let's go for the Terramander next. Terramander. And then after that, we're going to go for the Fairy Miscreant. Eye Collector seems pretty good as well. We've got a lot here still to go through. Plenty of things after this one. And we got another page after that. And we got a total of 79 cards. So it's only going to be 2 pages. All right, that's a little bit better. Not a ton of cards to worry about. All right, so we are currently adding in the Fairy Miscreant. Well, let's add in the Terramander first before I forget. All right, Fairy Miscreant. Fairy Miscreant. I don't even know what Miscreant means. It probably means like something like someone who's very mischievous or something. I don't know. We've got the Eye Collector we're going to add in. This dash ability doesn't really count. The Zephyr Sprite I think will count, though. So let's add in the Fairy Miscreant. We're adding in the Eye Collector. Eye Collector. And then next up, we're going to add in the Zephyr Sprite. Zephyr Sprite. We'll add in the Eye Collector into the deck. We'll add in the Zephyr Sprite into the deck. Merfolk Spy, I think, is really good. It's got the island walk, so no matter what somebody has as a blocker, if they've got an island out there, this is going to be unblockable. So I like this one a lot. It also makes them reveal a card at random from their hand, so you never know. You might reveal something that's so scary that people are not even afraid of you anymore. They're afraid of the other person now. But the Merfolk, I mean, we're not going to be dealing damage with this one, obviously, but or at least not, hopefully not most of the time. But if we ever needed to, yeah, we could do that. Merfolk Spy. Merfolk Spy. Next up, we've got Lifelink here. It can make a demon, but not what we're looking to do. Cloud Sprite will definitely count, so we'll put that over here as well. Merfolk Spy, we'll add that one in here as well. Next up is going to be the Cloud Sprite, I think it was. Cloud Sprite. Let me see if that's what I saw. Yeah, Cloud Sprite. Perfect. Okay. We can only block creatures with flying, which is definitely a bit of a downside on this card. So it might be one of the first cards that we actually drop from this deck. But I do want to add it in first. and see if we can, find some other cards that are worth adding in here. Will-O-the-Wisp. It's going to be a tough one to add in. Will-O-the-Wisp. I think I missed a dash there. See, I knew it was going to be tough for me to add it in there. Will-O-the-Wisp. It has the regenerate ability. I don't know how important that is going to be, but we do have it. So, yeah, let's add it in. Okay. Next up here, we've got the Fairy Imposter, which makes us sacrifice a creature, so that's not going to be as worth it. We've got the Quag Vampires. Does have Swamp Walk. Yeah, let's add it in there. Swamp Walk's also going to be pretty nice. So, Quag Vampires. Next up, we've got the Death Shadow, which is not going to work. It does have Shadow, but not as an ability. Cloud Pirates will definitely work. Kind of another copy of the Cloud Sprite. So Cloud Pirates, going to be another one for us to add in there. Cloud Pirates. Next up, we've got the Dread Malkin, which has Menace, but has Planeswalker on there. Does not have any type of walk ability. Flying Men will have Flying, as you can imagine. Cloud Pirates is not coming up there. I might have to type in Cloud Pirate. Might be the actual word. No, it is Cloud Pirates. Okay, well, we'll just add in another copy of the Cloud Sprite so we can keep in mind that that's what we're looking for. Because there are some cards every now and then you'll find on Magic Online that are not available. So Cloud Sprite will add in another copy of that one so we can keep in mind that that is going to be the copy of Cloud Pirates. Fairy Imposter we said no to. We already have the Quag Vampires in there. Flying Men. We'll add that one in here as well. Flying Men. We might not find that one on Magic Online either, but it does have the time-shifted logo, so I think that's probably going to be counting. We don't have a lot of instants and sorceries for us to flip a Delver of Secrets, even with all this library manipulation. Not going to happen. At least not going to happen. Not going to happen blind, at least. People are not going to have 10 life or less at the beginning of the game. Pilfering Imp, though, does definitely count, so we'll go for that one, adding in as well. Ooh, we have a lot of things to look at. Let's just keep going down here. Look for anything that says Flying Men. Oh, there it is. Flying Men. Perfect. That was easy. A lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Pilfering Imp is the next one. Pilfering Imp. Okay. And next one we got here is Ascendant Spirit. Does not have anything naturally. Nightshade Stinger does have Flying. Prickly Bogart has Fear. I feel like in the hierarchy of abilities that can grant unblockability, Fear is a little bit lower than Flying. Because all you have to have is a creature that's the right color for Fear. Whereas Flying, you have to have Flying or Reach, which definitely makes a couple cards cost more. So let's add in the Pilfering Imp. Let's add in the next one, which was Nightshade Stinger. Nightshade Stinger. I put in an additional N by mistake. Oops. Nightshade Stinger. Okay, we've got that one. We're going to add in do we add in the Prickly Bogart here, actually? I mean, Fear is not going to be as good as Flying. We're already going to have to drop, I think, a bunch of Flying anyways. Let's not add in the Prickly Bogart. I think that's not going to be as good as Flying anyways, so... next up, though, we've got the Ornithopter. Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-mana flyer. Yeah, let's add that one in here. Nightshade Stinger. We're going to go ahead and add that one in as well. Next up, we've got the Ornithopter. I hope I find it, because I don't want to have to retype this one out there. Island Walk with the Grayscaled Gale? I have no idea what that means. Grayscale, yeah, we'll go ahead and add in the Ornithopter. Next one, Grayscaled Gale, I think it was. Gale, is that right? Yeah. Or Gariel? I have no idea. I really don't know. It does look like one of those crocodiles that has, like, the thin snout. That might be what it's talking about here. Next up, we've got Lochthwain Gargoyle, which can grant flying, give itself flying for 4 mana. This one can get flying for 3 mana. For 2 mana to give something else flying. This has flying in Defender. This one can't be blocked by walls. Not except by walls, but can't be blocked by walls. Blightkeeper is going to be a flying 1/1, so we'll add that one in here as well. This one does not untap during our untap step. You never know when that's going to be a problem, so... yeah, we're probably not going to be adding the Brass Knight in here. But the Blightkeeper I like a lot. Blightkeeper. We'll add in the Grayscaled Gargoyle. Like I said, I don't know how to pronounce it. Blightkeeper we're going to be adding in. Let's go to the next page here on Scryfall while we're waiting. Blightkeeper, come on. Come to me. There you go. Blightkeeper we're going to go and add into the deck as well. And so now we've got Swamp Walk 1/1 with Zodiac Rat. I mean, Swamp Walk is really great. People tend to get down some lands that have types. So I feel pretty happy about adding the Island Walk, the Swamp Walk abilities. Is that... Hold on a second. Is it more likely that the blue-black opponent does not play a land with a subtype ability after we play our 1/1, or that nobody's got a flying creature on turn 2? I think actually the flying is more likely, believe it or not. I think because there's a lot of, dual lands out there that maybe people are not going to be wanting to go for the, playing down those basic land types early on. So, yeah, we might actually just drop those instead of the flying ones. But Fear, obviously, is still going to be worse than flying. Yes, so Zodiac Rat, not going to add that one in here. Blightkeeper, we've already added in. This has flying. During your upkeep, remove the top creature card in your graveyard from the graveyard or bury it. Okay, yes, that's not what we're looking for. Sacrifice unless you pay 1. Nope, no thank you. Swamp Walk. We have a flying here, the Avon Envoy. That seems pretty good. Same thing with the Vampire Bats. We can go for both of those here. Avon Envoy and Vampire Bats. Next up, we've got the Thought Nibbler. This one's actually got a pretty big downside. Your maximum hand size is reduced by 2. I would definitely not want to play that one here, especially on turn 1. Seems pretty bad. We're going to go ahead and add in the Avon Envoy, add in the Vampire Bats. I think it's the right thing for us to go to add in all these cards, because then we can add them back in based on what's the best type of card. Vampire Bats, let's add that one in as well. Duskwalker doesn't have anything naturally. Can't be blocked by walls. Flying, but we have to pay 2 mana every upkeep. Flying, yeah, the Phyrexian Butterflies definitely counts. And one of the big benefits of this card is that you get to say, I'm going to go ahead and cast Phyrexian Butterflies, which I'm sure your opponents are going to crack up here when they hear that you're going to be casting a Phyrexian Butterflies. It's not actually in the deck, or not on Magic Online, so let's figure out another way to do this here. Let's just grab another Vampire Bats. We'll remember that that's what it is. So I think they have the same abilities, right? +1/+0 until end of turn. So 0/1. Vampire Bats. Where are you, Vampire Bats? Oh, here it is. Yeah, same thing here. 0/1. So yeah, we're gonna add another copy of the Vampire Bats, just so we know that it's the Phyrexian Butterflies. All right, next up here we've got the Pit Imp, which is another effect just like that one. So let's go ahead and add in Pit Imp as well. Pit Imp. It's a fun card to say. Spindrift Drake. That one requires us to pay 1 mana or sacrifice it. This one only has flying unless if it's enchanted. So that's pretty much it here. We've got everything that we need. Pit Imp is the final card to add in. All right, so we've got a lot of cards to go through. Let's go ahead and start going through them. We're going to start here from everything that starts after Levitation. So let's go and grab these cards here. Move that into a new category. Because I want to add in those cards one by one based on which ones I think are the best ones. Okay, so starting off with the Nightshade Stinger. It has a downside. I'm going to skip the downside ones for now. Blightkeeper. It has an additional ability, but not an important extra ability. This Mills card, you can sacrifice it to draw a card. Kind of like that one. It can be a cycle effect later on if we needed to. This one also can be pretty big. I don't know how much that matters. Probably not, actually. Probably not that much. This one doesn't matter. We want to look for things that have flying and upside. If we can find an upside on our flyers, then that's what we're looking for. And then this, like, pseudo fire-breathing effect doesn't really count. That's actually pretty bad for us. Hypnotic Siren I like because it has the versatility there. This one can give us the Scry. I'm actually going to go for that because the Scry does matter for a deck like this. Even if we're not casting a bunch of artifacts, we can do it every now and then. This one has just straight up unblockability. I think those are like some of my favorite ones to have. Everything up to this point has had flying, right? Yeah, flying up to this point all the way around. All right, so we've got the Mistcloaked Herald in here. Next up, we've got the Fairies here. Scrying, like I said, really important for a deck like this one. This one can also be flashed in. So if we're worried that somebody has some ways to, destroy our turn 1 creature, maybe they're playing a deck that appears to have a lot of removal in it. We can wait until the end step before our turn, then play our Spectral Sailor. So at least they've got to have instant speed answers rather than sorcery speed ones. Slitherblade cannot be blocked at all. We've got here the Hope of Yuriko, which I like because it has the additional sacrifice effect here, which we can make people not cast the non-creature spells. If we know that they've got that combo in hand, being able to stop that is pretty good. Triton Shore Stalker, I'm going to really have trouble with that word. That one seems pretty good here. We've got the next one here, Zephyr Sprite, no upside for that flyer. I do like the Siren Storm Tamer. That one's got a huge upside here. No upside here. We've got each player mills a card. Not that great for us, actually. We're not going to have other creatures with the same name as this one. Island Walk, like I said, is worse than flying, probably. This one can adapt, but like I said, we're probably not adding in just the big creatures. Flying and regenerate, probably not, hopefully not regenerating it. Evolve doesn't matter. We've got the flying with the downside doesn't matter. Signal Pest I like a lot. We've got the Flying Men, which is no downside, no upside. Counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. I like this one a lot, actually. This can kind of help protect our commander here. Next up, we've got the Grayscaled Gargoyle. We're not going to be adding that one in. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You know what? This one does also kind of stops combos, so I like that one as well. And that's it. So we can drop these 21 cards. They are definitely not good enough, but we still have 3 cards too many in our deck. Yeah, flying. This one's good. I mean, we do have to mill somebody enough. And you know what? Actually, mill can kind of turn some decks online. We probably want to avoid doing that. So let's drop that mill-based card. After that one, I mean, the Scry 2 seems great. This one seems good. Everything else here seems really, really good. Yeah, this one seems fantastic as well. I like the Signal Pest also. We've got to drop 2 cards here, though. So what cards are going to be, like, somewhat okay? I think the ones that have just straight-up unblockability, they're good, but they're not as good as the upside cards that we've got. So Mist-Cloaked Herald, that's one of them. Slither Blade, that's another one of them. Triton Short Stalker, that's another one of them. And everything else here has flying. So we can only keep one of these effects in the deck. Can't be blocked, and can't be blocked. Let me take a look at the cards we've got in the deck. Are there any cards in here that we have that are not as good? This one can't be blocked. It's got the Megamorph ability, which I don't know how necessary that is, but that is something we can do. This one's like one of the best ones. This one also just has straight up can't be blocked. And then this one's got flying for 0. Yeah, I mean, what I'd like to do is just add them all in, but we can't. We really cannot do that here. Merfolk Rogue, Naga Rogue, Merfolk Warrior. Well, we can drop the Warrior here. I think there might be some things that care about Rogues, but not anything else. And then nothing that's going to care about Nagas. Whereas there might be something that cares about Merfolk. So, yeah, just literally going for the creature type ability to decide what we're going to go for. And that's it. That is it for this deck. Definitely one of the longer ones. It's been a while since I've done an hour and a half as a deck doctor. But you know what? I'm happy. I hope, Ehren, Wessel, I hope you enjoyed this deck doctor. Dropping a bunch of cards here. But like I said, the majority of these are just going to be strict upgrades, right? So we're looking at the Bitter Blossom. That's going to be a strict upgrade. We're looking at the Tetsuko. That's going to be a strict upgrade here. The Smoke Shroud, also going to be kind of a strict upgrade. Key to the City, Whirler Rogue. I mean, the only thing that's not going to be a strict upgrade here are like Ancient Excavation, which I'm not sure what the point of it was. So hopefully you understand why I'm saying that, because you know you want to have each one of the cards to fulfill a specific purpose, and I feel like that one is not going to be doing it as much. And yeah, so we can turn it up face anytime for its mana cost, but at the same time, like, how often are we going to want to do that? So I feel pretty happy with changing these 21 cards to add in these other 21 cards. I feel like that's going to keep the deck doing the same thing it wants to do. It's just going to make it better at doing that. So thank you so much to Ehren Wessel for being my patron over at Patreon. Thank you for being, actually, this is your first month with me on Patreon, so thank you so much especially. Thank you to everybody who's watched this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. What did you think? Is this good? Did I do the Yuriko deck justice with my deck doctor? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. Stay awesome, everybody.